have the honor of introducing some incredible members of our Democratic ticket who not only will get elected in November, but who will truly serve the people of Wisconsin who deserve incredible reputation led by our progressive values that have been abandoned over the last few years. So thank you all so much for coming. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm really glad this event is taking place at UW-Stevens Point. Many of you in the room have been a part of the conversation about what it means to invest in public education at all levels, from pre-K to high school, to technical colleges, to universities. And here at UW-Stevens Point, we're at ground zero for knowing what it feels like and knowing what the consequences are when a university budget continues to get cut and cut and cut and cut by Republicans. Now, you all know who's been doing the cutting. You know it's our current governor, you know it's the Republican legislators, so I'm not going to spend any more time on them, because they don't deserve it. Member of the Democratic ticket. I'm thrilled. And you all should be too. So let's start with someone who's going to be our fiscal watchdog, Sarah Godlewski. Okay, so Sarah ran to be a voice for every single person in our state because we're tired of fiscal mismanagement. We're tired of watching our taxpayer dollars go to private corporations while seniors and veterans and farmers and students are told, you know what, we don't have any money for our most basic needs like infrastructure or roads and bridges. We don't have money for public schools. You guys got to raise your own taxes. We don't have money for UW-Stevens Point, where a proposal to basically end the humanities has been driven by the guys that I just told you about earlier, right? They say we don't have any money, and then they go out and give it to foreign corporations, $3 billion in cash, and they give taxpayer money to guys who donate to their campaigns. And you know what's going to happen when we have a fiscal watchdog in the House? They're going to itemize all that for you. They're going to use best accounting practices, which don't sound very sexy, but trust me, you're going to love it. And guess what happens next? We hold them accountable, and we invest in people, and we invest in broadband, and we invest in seniors, and we invest in students, and we actually get to pave our roads, which is 2018, and I'm excited to pave our roads. What about Josh Call, the candidate for Attorney General? So exciting. Josh Call has been a part of voter protection lawsuits. He has stood up for the little guy, the underdog, my favorite person, again and again and again to make sure they can access their most basic democratic right, going to vote. Is it not amazing that every 2 years we basically get to throw out bums who should be held accountable? Well, Josh Call is one of those people who made sure that we could vote early and who's been a part of voter protection, which should be a nonpartisan issue. But in this day and age, it has become partisan. But Josh is going to fight for us, and I see many people with bottled water. We know that there are people in Wood County, Adams County, Juneau County, Portage County, who have to drink bottled water because when they go to turn on their tap, it is so contaminated by nitrate that they can't even drink their own water. Josh Call cares about that issue, as does every Democrat. He's going to fight to make sure polluters are held accountable. We can have clean drinking water again. It's 2018, we have to say that. But it's inspiring that we have a candidate who understands it isn't just about having the government give you bottled water, it's about preventing pollution in the first place. So I'm really excited to vote for Josh. Now, Mandela Barnes. Lieutenant Governor. I have the pleasure of serving with Mandela, and I can tell you, I think people have described him as fiery, a strong progressive, exciting. I can tell you he's a good guy too. He's just one of those people you want to be around. And Mandela has led on a very bold, progressive platform like the Green New Deal. Now all of us know how important renewable energy is to central Wisconsin. And we care a lot about climate change. We have tons of advocacy groups who work on climate change. Well, Mandela has a bold Green New Deal plan that will finally usher us of the 21st century, and I'm so excited to vote for him so we can invest in clean energy jobs, so we can take back energy independence, we can take that $16 billion we ship of our own money out of state, out west to coal, and instead do the right thing, create local jobs here and invest in renewable energy. It's very exciting to see you guys. A very personal story. So UWSP is very important to me. I've been working with many of you, I see a lot of familiar faces in this room, on this issue for a long time. And we've been talking about investing in the Wisconsin idea. The idea that there are really no boundaries of this campus or any other campus. It serves the entire state. Well, Tony Evers is a regent. And as a member of the Board of Regents, he's been essentially the only voice sticking up for what they all should be doing, investing in higher education. A study was just released a few days ago that showed for every dollar we spend on UW system, we get $23 back. There's no, someone told me a better investment. I haven't found one yet. It's just a way better than the stock market, but 23 times back. And yet we've got all these Republicans who refuse to give even new money and instead credit. We've got Tony Evers, who's been championing not only UW system funding, but he's had our backs the entire time with UWSP. And I can't tell you how much that means to me, because literally 2 days after this proposal came down, I ran into him in Madison. And he could have said, "Oh, Katrina, I hope I can count on your vote. Oh, Katrina, I need your help." But you know what he said? He looked me right in the eye. And he said, "How are you doing? What's going on up there?" And since then, I have been in contact with him over and over on this issue, not only him as a member of the Board of Regents, but him as a candidate who cares and who understands that our fight here, while incredibly important and our number one issue for many of us, is also the fight at UW Superior and UW Oshkosh. And it'll spread. It'll go to Green Bay, La Crosse, and Eau Claire, and Madison. It'll go to the two-year colleges, which are now becoming the four-year, and eventually, people who, unlike us, won't be able to access the best quality education probably in America. UW system has always been the crown jewel. Will not remember what UWSP used to be like if we let this happen. They won't remember what UW-Madison used to be like. But Tony gets it. He's been listening. He's had our backs the entire time, and he gets that if UWSP loses its energy and loses its programs, that our whole community will suffer. It'll affect Amherst and Rochelle and Wisconsin Rapids and Wausau and Wapaka and Marshfield, and it'll affect the whole state. He gets that. So I have to tell you, as a voter, as a person who cares about this more than almost any other issue right now, he gets it. And he understands the clean drinking water issue too. He knows what high capacity wells are. He knows the fights we've been having on the local and county and Central Sands level area region when it comes to high capacity wells and water issues. There are so many issues I could tell you about, whether it's public schools, university system, investing in our roads, protecting people with pre-existing conditions to make sure that they will always have health coverage. But I just want to mention, instead of policies, a couple of values that I think every Democratic candidate on the ticket this year gets, espouses, and believes in truly as human beings and not candidates. They get that no one should have to lie awake at night wondering how they're going to pay their bills. No one. No one should have to live in poverty if they're working, or at all. No one should have to fear accessing medical marijuana to treat their illness. Fear going to jail, I should say, as they access marijuana to treat their illness. And they all support things like medical marijuana and criminal justice reform as a result. They feel that every kid should have the best education available, but we shouldn't just make it available, we should make it more accessible, and we should invest more. Those values that we should pass on the good things from generation to generation, but also make them better, that's what makes me so proud to be a Democrat. And I'm so excited to see these guys travel all over the state over the next few months, because they're going to be talking about their progressive vision for the future. We're not going to look back. No one needs a reminder over the last 8 years. We've all felt it. We felt it in our bones. Some of us feel tired as a result. But what I choose to do is focus on the future. And I get shivers down my spine and tingles and goosebumps when I think about all the good things we get to do in January when we have a Democratic Democratic governor, a Democratic lieutenant governor, a Democratic attorney general. When we take back the street Senate, when we pick up seats in the assembly, what are we going to do? We're going to do so many amazing things, but we're going to lead by our values. It's not just going to be 10-point policy prescriptions. We're going to listen to the people. Nonpartisan redistricting reform, clean government that we can trust and hold accountable. Campaign finance reform, finally getting money out of politics to the extent we can on the state level. Guaranteeing people clean drinking water, investing in clean energy, making sure that kids get access to great child care and parents can afford it, paid family leave, earned sick days. There are no limitations to what we can do with all of us. Go out and vote. So I urge you, I encourage you to please work for candidates. Please volunteer if you can, because we have the momentum, we have the energy, we have the beliefs. We truly care about our community members and our neighbors, and this is our election to finally make things right, but not only that, to end the word impossible in Wisconsin. I never want to hear that word again, that it's impossible to guarantee clean drinking water or clean energy jobs or an affordable college education. We're going to make it possible with all of your support in November, so I thank you and I encourage you to work hard until November so we can have a Wisconsin we are proud of. Thank you all so much. Who's running for treasurer, and I want to point out one more thing about the Democratic ticket. 3 of our candidates are under the age of 40. How inspiring is that? Sarah Godwinski. And Sarah was the amazing representative in the chamber. She is awesome.
So I'm Sarah Godwinski, the candidate for state treasurer. Remember that position that Scott Walker tried to get rid of back in April? Because, I mean, who needs checks and balances in government? It's just so overrated. Well, thank goodness, because of all of you, we stopped Scott Walker's power grab with 62% of the vote, which is pretty darn amazing. And so the reality is now we have a demand and a responsibility to make sure that this office works for all Wisconsinites, urban, rural, and everything in between. And so people will say to me, well, what can the state treasurer do? Well, there's really 3 things that you should be demanding from this office on day one. The first is that this office should be your fiscal watchdog. It has the ability to review and examine financial transactions that involve your tax dollars. I mean, have you heard of a company called Foxconn? Who's actually going back to say, before you get any sort of corporate handouts, you have to meet the criteria that you're not hold it to. It's crazy that we're not doing it. The #1 reason for fraud and abuse in government? Lack of internal controls. There was a reason why they wanted to get rid of this office. The second thing is that this office should invest in Wisconsin's future. It is the financial trustee to 4 trust funds worth over $1.2 billion. Anybody have any ideas where that money goes to?
Libraries, school libraries.
Governor of Education got it right. It goes to public schools. It goes to libraries and to technology, which is critical. And what's unique is that this office has independent investment authority, and so it can really figure out how that money wants to be invested. So one of the things that we're talking about is, who here had student loan debt? So what we can do, student loan debt last year was up to 14.75% in interest rates. I mean, that's almost predatory lending. How can young people get ahead if they can't even keep up? Now, we can actually use the money in the trust fund to refinance these loans, so rather than it being a 14.75, we can reinvest it for a 4%. Talk about a win-win solution. And that's actually performing better than the current trust fund, which is at a 3% rate. And then the third thing that this office should be doing is it should be your financial advocate. How many of you remember the whole Wells Fargo thing that happened where they were kicking people off of loans, they were raising interest rates? Well, so state treasurers around the country said, you can't do that to my people. They canceled financial agreements with Wells Fargo, and then they fined them. Do you know what we did in the state of Wisconsin? Nothing. We did nothing. And I will tell you, this scares me now more than ever because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which stops predatory lending and is an advocate for consumers, is now being cut by basically the Trump administration. And state treasurers around the country are stepping into this role, and they need to be protecting all of you from that. Because when that situation happens again, this office should be standing up for you. So, I have been in business and finance my whole career. I started doing microfinance in rural India, and then worked for the Undersecretary of Defense and cut through red tape where we save taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. And now currently run a socially responsible investment fund. I will tell you, I'm excited because this vision can happen for the state of Wisconsin. I know it. But what I'm even more excited about is the vision that this entire Democratic ticket has with Josh Hall, Mandela Barnes, and Tony Evers, because they are talking about the importance of healthcare, the importance of roads, and the importance of public education. And I think the other really, really impressive thing that I have seen with Tony is that he's not a lifelong politician. He's a lifelong public educator. He's doing this for the right reasons. And he is going to be the one to change Wisconsin. So I hope we can work together to make sure that we win this ticket in November. And I am excited for what's in store. So thank you so much for letting us be here. And I am excited to introduce my friend, the next Attorney General, Josh Hall.
It's great to be back in Stevens Point. It's good to see some familiar faces. For those of you I have not met before, I'm Josh Hall. I'm the Democratic nominee for Attorney General. I grew up in Oshkosh and Fond du Lac in a family that was deeply involved in public service. My mom spent a lot of her career working as a prosecutor and elected official. My stepdad, Bill, was a police officer in Neenah, and after he retired from that job, became a teacher's aide in Fond du Lac. He just recently retired for the second time. My mom's parents were both public school teachers in Fond du Lac. I grew up going to public schools there as well. I have the great accomplishment of having scored one touchdown as the fullback of the Fond Cardinals football team. It was from 1 yard out, but it counts all the same. I'm certain of that. I also had the chance to spend part of my career in public service. I was a federal prosecutor in Baltimore, where I prosecuted drug traffickers, gang members, and murderers, and I worked to make communities safer and more secure. As Katrina mentioned before, I've also gone to court to challenge laws that restrict access to voting, including a challenge to more than a dozen laws that were enacted here in Wisconsin in Scott Walker's first term in office. And as a result of that case, early voting was expanded in Wisconsin, restrictions were struck down, and registration was made easier because restrictions on registration were struck down. Now I'm running for Attorney General for a lot of reasons, really, but the fundamental one is that I want my family and all of our families to live in a Wisconsin that is safer and stronger than we're on track for right now. And there is so much that an effective Attorney General can do to help us move in that direction. First, we need new leadership when it comes to fighting crime and getting justice for Wisconsinites. We have an opioid epidemic and a growing meth problem that has been devastating for families across the state. There were nearly 900 opioid-related overdose deaths in Wisconsin last year alone. And we're not going to beat that epidemic until we start responding to it like the crisis it is. To me, that means making sure that our enforcement efforts are targeting large-scale traffickers who are sending drugs across state lines and county lines. But it also means investing far more seriously in treatment so that people who are addicted are able to get the help that they need to get back on their feet. And it means electing an Attorney General who's going to be serious about holding the pharmaceutical companies accountable for the role that they have played in creating and exacerbating this epidemic. We also need an Attorney General who understands that eliminating our backlog of untested rape kits should have been a priority on his first day in office. You know, in our current AG's first year in office, the state of Wisconsin received millions of dollars to test the kits in our rape kit backlog. But after he had served for 2 years, after Brad Schimmel had been there for 2 years, only 9 of the kids in our rape kit backlog were tested. He claimed there was no backlog, which was in fact found to be pants on fire false, the worst possible rating. And what that means is that justice has been delayed for survivors, and that people who have committed a serious violent crime have remained on the streets longer than they should have. And we need to do more when it comes to making sure that our schools are as safe as they can be. You know, my opponent has suggested that we consider arming teachers, which I find to be alarming. He's criticized gun-free school zones. What I think we need are some common sense gun safety measures like universal background checks and a ban on bump stocks here in Wisconsin. We also need an agency to be serious about enforcing laws that protect consumers and enforcing the laws that protect our environment. And I'll tell you 2 quick things about Brad Schimmel and the environment. Number 1, under his predecessor, J.B. Van Hollen, we collected over $3 million a year in fines from polluters. That's dropped to under $1 million a year under Brad Schimmel. It'd be great if that was because pollution had dropped by 2/3 in Wisconsin, but I never get through that line and people start laughing because we all know that in fact we're going the wrong direction when it comes to protecting our natural resources. The second thing I want to mention is that Brad Schimmel wrote an AG's opinion that found that the DNR is not permitted to consider the impacts that high-capacity wells have on nearby lakes and rivers and streams. Now that's being challenged in the court right now, but I don't need to tell anybody in Stevens Point about the impact that that decision has had. We need an AG who understands that in 2018 in Wisconsin, no parent should have to worry about the safety of the water that their kids are drinking, and that polluters who break our laws should expect to be held accountable. We also need an AG who understands that we should be working to expand access to affordable health insurance coverage and to reduce costs. And I am looking forward to working with Governor Evers to fight to expand Medicaid. And again, our current Attorney General is taking us in the wrong direction. He is one of the leaders of a lawsuit right now that's seeking to invalidate the Affordable Care Act. If that suit is successful, protections will be taken away from people with pre-existing conditions. Health insurance companies will once again be able to deny coverage to people on the basis of a pre-existing condition. Young adults will lose the guarantee that they can remain on their parents' coverage until they turn 26. And the Congressional Budget Office estimates that more than 30 million Americans would become uninsured if the major components of the Affordable Care Act are struck down. As your Attorney General, I will seek to withdraw Wisconsin from that lawsuit because we should be working. That suit is a waste of our taxpayer dollars. And wasting our taxpayer dollars is something that Brad Schimmel knows a little bit about. As you may have heard, he spent about $83,000 of taxpayer money on promotional materials. That includes money that was spent on promotional stress balls. It includes money that was spent on custom-made fortune cookies, which I didn't know was a thing that existed until I learned about this. But if you want to get Katrina Shanklin for state assembly on a custom-made fortune cookie, you can apparently. And most famously, he spent about $10,000 of taxpayer money on fake gold-plated coins with his name on them. I have a 4-year-old, I have a 1-year-old at home, and in my household, if you're going to spend money on fake coins, they better have chocolate inside. In all seriousness, in our AG's first 2 years in office, he spent $10,000 on fake coins, and only 9 of the kids in our rape kit backlog were tested. That to me is the definition of misplaced priorities. So we need new leadership in our Attorney General's office. And that's not the only place we need new leadership. We need to elect Sarah Godlewski as our next state treasurer. We need to elect Tony Evers as our next governor. And I have the privilege today of introducing the person who we need to elect as our next lieutenant governor. A person who is a leader, a person who I look forward to working with to make Wisconsin safer and stronger. Your next Lieutenant Governor, Mandel Barnes.
So y'all feeling real good today? Are we feeling inspired? Are we feeling enthusiastic? Are we feeling energetic? Are we ready to win in November? I could not be more proud to be a part of this team, and I need to thank Representative Katrina Shankland. We were both elected together in 2012. We were both at the tender age of 25. And it's amazing how fast time flies. I've always admired her work. It was always a pleasure to serve with her, and you should know that you have a champion, and that is Madison White. And the only reason that Katrina has not been able to do more amazing work is because who our governor is, who the leaders in the state senate are, who the leaders in the state assembly are. But this is the year where we change that. This is the year we take the state assembly to be enforcement. After Tuesday, Tony and I, we've been on the road. We've got to know each other quite well. I've been telling people that this is the start of your new favorite sitcom, the Mandel and Tony Show. And we are going to all parts of this state. We're not just going to campaign in every county, but we're going to campaign in every community. And we are taking a positive message. We know that this race will not just be about running against Scott Walker. We tried that 3 times already. It didn't work. This is where we talk about our plan as Democrats to improve the lives of people all across this state. This is where we stand up and we talk about who we are, our plan to expand opportunity through access to health care, investing in education, protecting our environment, and improving our economy. Everybody knows the last 8 years has been a failure. But the reality is, we don't get anywhere by knocking on doors and saying we're not Scott Walker, or knocking on doors and saying, oh hey, we're Democrats. We knock on doors when we make sure, we win when we knock on doors and say that Wisconsin is going to be open for everyone, not just open for business. I mean, I have just been so inspired. Sarah Godley, Josh Hall, Tony Evers. I mean, think of a time when we've had a ticket this strong going into November. I can't think of a time. The moment is now. The moment is now. We got more votes than Republicans on Tuesday. So the momentum is on our side, the win is at our backs. We won 2 special elections in the state senate this year already. Governor Walker is afraid. That's why they're already going on the attack against Tony. But guess what? They don't have a lot to attack him on. Tony is a wonderful guy. He's already proved himself as the superintendent of public education. That's why Scott Walker has been going around the state lying to everybody, saying he's the education governor. And it's like his words of affirmation. He wakes up in the morning, he looks in the mirror and says, I'm the education governor. I'm the education governor. I'm the education governor. And he expects us all to believe it. He's only convincing himself. He has not convinced anybody in this room, and we know he has not convinced anybody across this state that he's the education governor. And, you know, I try not to talk too much about him. I try not to talk too much about him because, again, it's about our positive vision, how we increase access to quality and affordable health care by taking the Medicaid expansion, by working to get a badge of care public option because the federal government is not going to do it. Fully funding our public schools, investing in higher education, making sure that college is affordable because college is not affordable for far too many people, even people who've already paid for college. Those are student loan debt. When we have student loan debt, we should be able to refinance that debt. We should be able to borrow money at the same rate that big banks pay to borrow money. We should be able to provide a pathway for free 2-year technical education. When people say how we're going to pay for it, my short answer is Foxconn. These big polluters have to be held accountable. And again, we have to get scientists back into the agency, and we have to get rid of the climate deniers. clean air and clean water across this entire state, we have issues. And we need to bring that all back in, especially with companies like Foxconn who are going to take all that water from Lake Michigan, also add air contaminants. It's a real problem, and I cannot be more proud to be running on a strong pro-environment agenda. And we can look at that challenge of climate change and say, this is where Wisconsin will create jobs, by investing in renewable energy, by being a clean energy leader with a Green New Deal to put people right back to work at a living wage. Long-term sustainable growth. And so I've said it once that Wisconsin will be open for everyone, not just for business, but that means that we end the era of mass incarceration. It means that we end the scourge of gun violence. It means that we fully fund our public schools. It means that we protect our environment. It means that we elect a real education governor. And so I could not be more proud. I could not be more proud of the state of front of you today to introduce our state superintendent of public education, our next governor, the real education governor, Dr. Tony.
Absolutely thrilled for me to be here today. And I think Katrina's still around again, and I'll tell you, you can't have a better representative. We've worked So I'm Tony Evers, and I'm going to be the next governor of the state of Wisconsin. And I have to start out with this because of where I'm standing today. I believe in the Wisconsin idea, and that includes the humanities. So we had a great primary, and I know it was difficult on a lot of people. I'm sure there are maybe one or two of you in this room that didn't vote for me. But the thing about the primary I thought was outstanding is that we actually got better as a party, but also all the candidates. We're able to debate each other, meet people, and hear what's going on in the state of Wisconsin. I know it made me a better candidate, and I know it made the rest of them a better candidate. So I'm honored to have been with those 8 folks. At the end, I think it started off with about 20, and we got down to 80. It's a great win last Tuesday night, and a great springboard to make this happen in about 3 months or so. So we're going to work very hard to make that happen. Now, there are things that people have said about me that I just have to dispel. Some people say, oh my gosh, Tony's dull. Oh my gosh, he is boring. Well, let me tell you, I eat an egg McMuffin almost every morning. My wife and I dance the polka, and my gosh, euchre is one of the best games there is. That's pretty Wisconsin, I'll tell you that. Anyway, this is going to be an extremely exciting race. And just for those of you who haven't had a chance to meet me, I'm from Plymouth, Wisconsin. I actually met my wife in kindergarten, and our first date was junior prom, and that is the truth. No lie. The thing that's important about Plymouth that I want to get into and talk about Donald Trump just for a second is this. Plymouth, Wisconsin is the cheese capital of the world. I know there's probably other places around here that believe that, but it is the cheese capital of the world. We have a big sign downtown that says cheese capital of the world. And that doesn't convince you. We also have one of those big plastic cows that's on a throne, actually. So we believe in cheese. My first job was working in a cheese factory, scraping mold off the cheese. That's where I learned actually how to love cheddar cheese. Now, the thing that concerns me, and this is a Donald Trump deal, is this. The people of Plymouth, Wisconsin are my friends, and that's where my heart is. And cheesemakers in this state, 90% of the cheese comes from Plymouth, Wisconsin. It's either produced there, or it's processed there, and sent off. 90% of it. Donald Trump has absolutely ravaged that and devastated that thing, just through his tweets about tariffs. Farmers are losing contracts around the area in northeast Wisconsin. Wisconsin because of that. They're looking for ways to move production offshore so that they can actually sell in Europe. I'll tell you this, under no circumstances will I be like Scott Walker and say absolutely nothing. When Donald Trump comes to Wisconsin, or when Donald Trump, this is the people of the state, hurts them, I will say you no longer have a doormat here in Wisconsin. Donald Trump. To be a Wisconsinite means many things to many people, but for Kathy and I, we've lived all across the state of Wisconsin, and people have always treated us with kindness and respect and dignity and shared values. That's what this race is about, and I know Miguel talked about it, I know Sarah talked about it, and I know Josh talked about it. Yes, we have issues around Donald Trump and Buddy Scott Walker, but can I do something to help? I love children. It's my job. Anyway, that was a good intervention there. Anyway, what a beautiful child. So, values are critically important to us as a team that's running for office. Obviously, we're going to hold Scott Walker accountable. There are things that policy decisions that he and his colleagues have made over the last couple of years that are atrocious and hurting Wisconsinites. But the bottom line is, if we don't have a positive vision for the future, we will not succeed in this race. It's absolutely critical. And those things really start with some really basics. And we've learned this all across, when we've run for office in the primary, listening to people, and also being Wisconsinites, we know this. We want to have good health care. We want to have affordable health care. There is a reason in western Wisconsin that people are actually moving across the river to live in Minnesota and stay in Wisconsin and work, because the Affordable Care Act costs half as much in Minnesota as it does in Wisconsin, and for the same policy. That is because Scott Walker did not take the Medicaid money, and he did not set up the exchanges, especially with a public option. We will change that on day one. We're going to take that Medicaid money. Let's talk about the importance of roads and transportation in the state. We are 49th out of 50 in infrastructure. And we have places that includes roads and bridges, internet, ports, things that are, and mass transit, things that are really important to the state. There's a reason there are signs on Highway 39 coming north that say potholes are now called stop holes. Yeah, I knew I would get that out of this one. Drive by them every day. But Scott Walker's tactic has been, we're not going to borrow any money, we're drawing a line in the sand, and as a result, our infrastructure has decreased to a point that we're the laughing stock of the nation. We can change that, and we have to change that along with lots of other things around infrastructure, making sure that broadband is actually accessible in the state of Wisconsin, cell phone service is accessible in the state of Wisconsin. We are just about dead last in all those categories. We have to reinvest in that. The third thing, obviously, is really important to me is the issue of education. And Katrina talked about it and others. We have to, our best economic development driver in the state of Wisconsin is not Foxconn, it's the University of Wisconsin system, and that includes the humanities here at UWSP. In addition, we have to make sure that we're fully funding our University of Wisconsin system. Tuition is too high. It should be lower. But the reason it is because Scott Walker has not adequately funded higher education. It's a pretty simple equation. K through 12 education, my wheelhouse. It absolutely deals with and threads the needle with every other issue that I'm talking about. It is the cornerstone of our democracy. And I can't wait to have, many of you may have seen the budget I've released that going forward in this race, we're going to invest in early childhood education. There is no reason the poorest zip code in the state of Wisconsin has no quality, high quality daycare. None, zero. And you think of any children that need that step up to make sure that they get that extra lift going into school, it's kids that come from poverty. We can change that day one. And this is something that has been left fallow for 12 years. We're going to increase special education funding by $6 million. $6 million. We're also going to get to the promised land of having 2/3 funding for our schools. We have to get there. We can no longer allow our education system to deteriorate. We have schools closing across the state. We have people going to referendum all across the state. And there's good and bad about that news, but I think it's imperative that we think through this. Over the last 3 or 4 years, hundreds of school districts, in fact, just 2 days ago in the spring primary, just August 14th. 2 days ago, 2 school districts did it. We've had hundreds across the state passing referendum to raise taxes on themselves so that they have good public schools. First of all, the problem with that is that Scott Walker has not funded our public schools, and he's tossed it off to the locals. Second of all, it's good news because people care about their public schools and trust the teachers that work in that school, and administrators and the school board members. That is not equity. We have about 80% of the districts passing those referendum, 20% aren't. That is not the Wisconsin way. We have to return to the basics here and fund our public schools in a way that works. Let me just conclude with this. This race is about me, obviously, and the other 3 Democrats. But the bottom line is, this race is about all of you and the values that you hold dear. We have to have each other's back. I'm going to work darn hard over the next 3 months to make sure that we win this race. But we need everybody to have our backs as candidates. I know I can count on you. You've been there before with me. You're going to be with me again, these other 3 great candidates. I can't wait to be governor of the state of Wisconsin. And the good news is that budget I just talked about, that budget that normally I would give to Scott Walker and say, please help us in our public schools. Guess who I'm going to give it to this time? Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.